We could watch a Mary Lou Jepsen tape. It's late, but it's worth a watch. We're going to watch a few of her recordings. She does talk about creating synthetic telepathy, so it's kind of interesting. And she did work at Facebook, and I think she worked at Google for a little bit. And she came from MIT. She was one of the first graduates of in holography, and worked in Asia for 8 years in the chipset manufacturing.
Wow. How long is her video?
You can watch a video.
How long is it?
I don't know, 15, 20 minutes with a couple little sidebars.
Do that, and then, but I'll still be here. I want to grab something to drink real quick. But I'll be here if you want to show that video.
Right on. And that is what
after that
we will do.
All right.
So there's show notes in DLive, YouTube. Well, screw you, YouTube. That's all I got to say about that.
Ha! I want to hit the air horn, but I won't.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to watch this lady, Regina Dugan, soon. We watched her a while ago, but it's time to watch her again. Former head of DARPA, works for Google and then for Facebook. You're seeing a pattern here, people. So if you want to watch it early, go for it. I've got it linked at humaninternet.org under media. And that's not what we're going to look at today. We're going to look at Open Water today and Mary Lou Jepsen, who founded this company. And she is into medical imaging, cheap. So she's going to take an MRI machine and turn it into a few $100s instead of it being like $100,000 for one machine. Something that you could potentially go down and buy from like a Rite Aid and plug it in or link it to your phone and do things like have full telepathy experiences or image your breasts for cancer or your tummy or your arm or whatever. And it's pretty cool stuff. So MRI quality medical imaging, 1,000 times cheaper. Brain computer communication non-invasively. What a beautiful, beautiful picture of the transparent humanoid. And so her tech page, this is openwater.cc. It's in the show notes, but it's openwater.cc. And imaging, this is what she's doing, imaging. And she can image down to less than a single voxel, down to basically a single pixel. And she can do this with light and then be able to tell which neurons are firing and which ones are not firing, translate that with algorithms and machine learning, and create synthetic telepathy with light and ultrasound. So we're going to spend some time looking at this idea of the combination of light and ultrasound as it relates to being able to read your brain. And what I want to share with you is that infrared is emitted from things like TVs, from things like your computer monitor. More specifically, focused infrared is emitted from things like your FaceID on your phone. And the forward camera and the rear camera have these technologies, and you have infrared photoreceptors on the front and the back of your phone and likely on modern laptops. So, devising a new generation of portable medical imaging technologies to enable improved access to medical diagnosis and treatments, right? So, good stuff. This is a rat head and skull imaged with the open water system with different grayscales to see different features. So this is a holographic image that was taken using light and ultrasound of a rat's skull and brain. And you can see the depth, you can see the difference in tissues, you can see all kinds of cool stuff here. And we will move on. Here's another picture where they're kind of taking a different shade or different hue, different view. Rat skull, rat brain, imaged with very, very cheap technology. Very, very cheap technology. Infrared, infraread your mind. I like that. Yes, that's exactly where we're going. Infraread your mind. Imaging tumors in live rats. Non-invasive imaging of a rat tumor. So this is being advocated as being a very, very easy way. You wrap an ace bandage around your breasts, for example, and you get a mammogram. Or you wrap one around your head and you can check for tumors there or engage in silent conversations. And imaging of kidneys, pig kidneys, kidney vasculature, looking at open water imaging so you can see the blood flow, veins, arteries, etc. This is just a science approach to the medical approach to the level of detail that this stuff can provide. It's very, very cheap, but they're using off the shelf components that they make in the orders of millions per day for cell phones. So they're using the same infrared chips and the same speakers, ultrasonic transducers, piezoelectric style speakers to generate ultrasound. These things are made in mass for mobile devices and cell phones, which is where she came from. She was part of the optics development team, an executive, senior executive at Facebook. MIT, PhD, she holds over 250 patents, lots of them with large corporations like Facebook, dealing with holography and screens. Basically their optics department for the Oculus system. And she worked on, or she's familiar with the $1 billion that went into Pokemon Go, which is the 3D interactive game that puts augmented Pokemons around you in real life, where they have to use this kind of stuff to be able to overlay images in real life, augmented reality. And that is a very, very, very common thing today. Rat abdomen and spinal features. And they're showing you different resolutions. This stuff is just crazy. Doesn't that look fun? An example of an open water scan system for rapid prototyping. That looks like fun for the rat. Over the last 2 years, we've built new lasers, cameras, and ultrasonic systems and put them together in a slimmed-down holographic system architecture. We've also designed and built new computer control systems, electronic boards, firmware, and software to enable scanning of the body, and invented a built-in novel image reconstruction technique and image visualization software. They've refined the systems, and these processes made some breakthroughs in image quality, and they are continuing to do so. Our wand system can see inside the brain and body with blood flow fidelity of 0.1%, even in capillaries. So blood flow resolution of 0.1%, even in the capillaries. It's hard for me to even quantify how specific that is. Capillary is a very, very, very small vasculature component. And if they can look at the blood flow 0.1% of the blood flowing through a capillary, that's a pretty good resolution. We are starting hospital studies on humans for use as a stroke detector at the end of 2020, so right now. We're pursuing a full brain scanning system with blood flow detection systems for stroke, generalized neuro, and brain-computer interface, BCI. We also include full brain structural information without ionizing radiation or contrast injections, so no electromagnetics or no electromagnetics above ultraviolet, because that would be the breakout point for ionizing versus non-ionizing. Ionizing radiation is just above, it's within the ultraviolet range. You have UVA, UVB, and UVC, and I think it starts at UVB is when that radiation, that wavelength starts ionizing. It's where it's displacing electrons. One photon of an ionizing wavelength, or a wavelength that is above the ionizing energy level, one photon is able to displace electrons out of cells, and that causes cell death, immediate cell death. And that's one of the few ways that the FCC has regulated wireless communications. You can broadcast in non-ionizing radiation because it's quote unquote safe, but it's not. You can look up a term called multi-photon ionization, where they shoot photons, more than one, and they kind of add up in the body. But they don't really want to talk about that at the FCC. That would wreck the whole wireless infrastructure industry if that was a topic of discussion. Multi-photon ionization. Multi-photon ionization. So there's a couple videos here. We're not going to watch them on this website. We are going to watch these, as well as the one from Regina Dugan, which is over here, because they go hand in hand. Hand in hand. So we'll start with this one. It's a 15-minute video, and it's a good high level of what this stuff is. And then next week, or in the next show, we will continue with infrared light, how this works. And it's very important that we understand how it works before we watch the Facebook piece, which literally talks about a brain-computer interface using infrared light to do things like translate your speech out of your brain without using a keyboard for 100 words per minute interface to Facebook, where she says that they're able to filter out what you want to say versus what you don't want to say. And they don't listen to or understand what you don't want to say, but hey, they have access to the entire speech center of the brain by using infrared light and shooting infrared light into it, which is exactly what this lady is building. So this is why this lady is so important. She used to work at Facebook, and I know I've said that before, but it's very, very important to realize just who is in control. And right now, the war is with big tech. So, here we go.
I'm going to talk today about my latest startup, and we're using light to see deep inside our bodies and brains, and some innovations in consumer electronics. And so what I'm really talking about, what we're doing at Open Water, is replacing this multi-million-dollar medical imaging scanner with consumer electronics and putting it into a wearable or a small a probe that you can scan over your skin. And you're probably thinking, yeah, sure, right, that sounds impossible. And last night at dinner, people were saying, well, why is this not Theranos? It's been in the news a lot. There's a new movie out about the company. And really, when somebody asks that, they're saying, why is what you're doing not fraud? And so, you know, I actually made a spreadsheet. And I'm like, okay, fraud, allegedly. Us, not. We both are women with blonde hair. We have that in common as founders. But I have a lot of degrees and, you know, 3 decades of track record of work of shipping billions of dollars worth of product on the hairy edge of physics. I've got about 250 patents to my name, and on and on. And I also have to point out, in terms of audacity, like really a pinprick versus, oh, I can't like have a needle in my arm. Okay, that's fine, but we're enabling brain-computer communication and massively reducing the cost of medical imaging, which 3/4 of humanity lacks access to. So I think what we're doing is much bolder and much harder. And by the way, a blood prick test just got approved by the FDA last week for Ebola. So it is possible. And we're very open. The reason I'm here today is because we talk every month. We give monthly updates about what we've accomplished and what our challenges are, just like we did in One Laptop Per Child, as the speaker mentioned. I did previously. I co-founded One Laptop Per Child, and every month we talked about what we were doing to make a $100 laptop, and people laughed at us, said it wouldn't work, and it became the fastest growing consumer electronic category ever recorded and transformed the lives of hundreds of millions of kids in the developing world. So, question for the audience: has anybody ever been inside one of these things? Okay, a bunch of people. Good. Not good, I guess. I mean, I learned about it. I was super sick. I did drop out of college once. I dropped out of my PhD in physics because I was living in a wheelchair, sleeping 20 hours a day, body full of sores. Half of my face couldn't move, so I drooled. And then I could no longer remember how to subtract, and so I didn't think I deserved a PhD in physics. And nobody could figure out what was wrong with me. So I finally faced facts and dropped out of school and went home to die. And on the way out, a professor sprung for the cost of an MRI. They found my brain tumor. It took 30 days to have the operation, get better, petition to get back into grad school. I got to use I had a brain tumor excuse. It worked. They let me back in, finished my PhD in 6 months. And with 2 other students, we got $4 million to start our first company. So I was off and running. But I never forgot how expensive it was and how it transformed my life. 3/4 of humanity lacks access to medical imaging. 3/4. These systems in 1995, the one that saved my life, cost millions of dollars. Each scan is thousands of dollars. And yet, it's how we do early detection of cancer and many other diseases. It's too expensive. It's not getting cheaper, 1% better every year. It's time, I thought, to do something about it. And there's another thing about medical imaging. It actually causes cancer. If you're too big to fit in the MRI machine, you get a CT. If you have, as a child, a number of CTs, your chance of leukemia or brain cancer triples. But for the overall population as adults, medical imaging causes 3 to 5% of cancers. And so it's, that's a double-edged sword. So how our system works, one thing, magnetic resonance imaging doesn't have X-rays or gamma rays. Those are the things causing cancer. So MRI is super expensive, but here I've got a smartphone here. Oh, Google's trying to help me. So here's a flashlight, and if I put my finger in front of the flashlight, you can see the red light goes right through my finger. So do gamma rays, so do X-rays, so do 2-ton magnets, but guess which one is cheaper? Like, by a lot. So the issue is actually the light gets scattered, and I noticed some improvements in consumer electronics that I thought could enable us to descatter the light going through our bodies. So I left my job in consumer electronics at Facebook a few years ago to explore this, and using holography and ultrasonic pings, we've basically designed a system to do this using new kinds of camera chips we've developed, new kinds of ultrasonic chips, and a new kind of laser. And so how does that work? We send, for example, if these black dots represent the elements, the new chips that we've made, we send a ping down, an ultrasonic ping into the brain. Where the ping focuses, we bring in red light. Remember, it scatters everywhere. But the light that goes through that ping changes color ever so slightly. We bring in another beam under a neighboring chip, and we interfere those 2 beams. It's called holography, like an old school definition of holography, the thing that won the Nobel Prize in the early 70s. And there we create this interference, and you see those fringes, and we can record those fringes only now because pixel sizes in camera chips have gotten really small, and that's been really enabling. So we can see the light that just came from that spot and not the other light, because it changes color when it goes through an ultrasound ping, just like the pitch of a police car siren changes as it speeds past you. It's called Doppler shift. So we use that, and we decode that image, much like Rosalind Franklin decoded this iconic image of X-ray diffraction to reveal the structure of DNA for the first time. It took her a while. She didn't really get full credit, but we can now do that 1 million times a second in the chips that we've designed.
All right. So 1 million times per second in the chips they've designed, interacting light and ultrasound. So I'm going to show you 2 things, and you be the judge as it relates to whether or not you think this can already be done, maybe not with the resolution that they were talking about, but perhaps maybe it can be done to some extent. The first one I'm going to play for you is this. Of course, you're going to error out. Let's see if it wants to come back.
Try to refresh the browser.
Let's see if it wants to come back to life. Oh, it's just going to play on through. So this is Face ID. Face ID. iPhone 10, your new way to unlock your phone. You've seen this quite a bit, right? Infrared lasers on the top, flash in your face, recognizes your face, and unlocks your face. So it has the lasers and it has a photoreceptor in order for it to be able to read what's going on. So you have an infrared camera. It reads the dot pattern, captures the infrared image. That's your infrared camera on this particular phone. Most phones have these now. You have a flood illuminator. It helps identify your face even when it's dark. So you have one infrared source. It's a floodlight. And then you have dots. More than 30,000 individual lasers, dots, are projected onto your face to build your unique facial map. So here's the infrared piece that passes through your body, passes through your skin, passes through your bone, into your brain, and reflects back, and could potentially be read from this little thingy right here that is an infrared camera, a photoreceptor. Let's continue. I want to show you exactly all of these little things are dots. They're so close together. Each one of them has an address. They're gridded out, and they understand the reflections. The reflections of the dots come back to that camera, and that gives the three-dimensional space and three-dimensional orientation of your face, and that's how it unlocks your phone. Well, infrared passes through your body. So it's bouncing off your face, but it's also passing through, and it's bouncing off the bone, but some of it's also passing through. It's bouncing off your brain tissue. Some of it's passing through. So the infrared light's getting in there and it's bouncing back. And then it's the question of the algorithms to make sense of it all. And that lady will talk about that as time goes on, maybe in this one, maybe in the next talk. Mary Lou Jepsen, openwater.cc, if you want to go visit her website. So we have the infrared piece and we have the ultrasound piece. We're going to show you the infrared. It's flashing, flashing, flashing. You don't see this when it's really happening. It could be happening right now. But because you don't see an infrared, when you're sitting there looking at your phone or working with your phone or whatever, this could be doing this while you're not technically logging into your phone. You won't even know it because it's invisible. It's outside of the visible light spectrum. Yet this illuminator is able to emit 30,000 points of light, 30,000 points of light to be able to identify and or interact with you. So you have the infrared light piece, and we are going to look at voice to skull style technology, which discusses this idea of thermo-acoustics. Thermo-acoustics, the microwave acoustic effect, acoustic and electromagnetic auditory sensations, and we have, where are they? They're up here. The radio frequency hearing effect, Department of the Air Force. Apparatus for audibly communicating speech using the radio frequency hearing effect. Here's the patent. It exists. It's very real. It's very common on the internet to find. And it's this idea of thermo-acoustics. The radio frequency hearing effect is explained and analyzed as a thermal to acoustic demodulation process. Energy absorption in a medium like your head causes mechanical expansion and contraction, and thus an acoustic signal. An acoustic signal, you say, well, that could be ultrasound. Things that make you go, So what this says is that RF waves, electromagnetic waves, are able to expand and contract as they transition from the air through your bone and into your brain. They can make the tissues expand and contract, and that causes pressure waves, acoustic waves. And if those expansions and contractions happen fast enough, you can start generating ultrasound. Well, you think, well, that's fine. Well, that's just one. Well, what happens if you have a MIMO antenna, multiple input, multiple output antenna, or more than one antenna on a phased array system, or even better yet, something that's coming out known as 5G, where you have multiple pizza box sized phased array antennas up to an excess of 256 antennas per pizza box? within an 800-foot distance of you to be able to emit multiple beams of radiation. It's called beam forming. You can look these terms up if you choose, to then direct and focus radio frequency waves or millimeter waves at your body or your brain to have interfering waves ultimately come into your brain or into your head and create targeted, focused ultrasound, albeit not as specific as something directly laying on top of your head, but still being able to generate ultrasound, which does what this lady's talking about, which is changing, where'd it go? It's over here, which is changing the color of the light. I don't know where it went. How unfortunate is that? Let me go back. There it is. This is what we were looking at. So I'm going to go back to this image here. And I'm going to recap everything I just said to you because I know that was a lot. And I know it's late. And we're going to go over this again and again and again and again and again because I really want to drive home this point that this stuff, in my opinion, is already happening. So let's listen to her explain how this works one more time.
At work, we send, for example, if these black dots represent the elements, the new chips that we've made, we send a ping down, an ultrasonic ping into the brain. Where the ping focuses, we bring in red light. Remember, it scatters everywhere. But the light that goes through that ping changes color ever so slightly. We bring in another beam under a neighboring chip, and we interfere those two beams. It's called holography, like an old school definition of holography, the thing that won the Nobel Prize in the early 70s. And there we create this interference, and you see those fringes. And we can record those fringes only now because pixel sizes in camera chips have gotten really small, and that's been really enabling. So we can see the light that just came from that spot and not the other light because it changes color when it goes through an ultrasound ping, just like the pitch of a police car siren changes as it speeds past you. It's called Doppler shift.
So she just said that a Doppler shift occurs with the infrared light that passes through the ultrasonic wave. And we have looked at the infrared camera and the infrared dot projector and the infrared floodlight that exists on just about every mobile device that exists today, tablet or phone, etc. Right? And this idea of the radio frequency hearing effect that generates audio waves in your head with thermal expansion, thermal to acoustic demodulation. And we can search Thermo-Acoustics if you wish. And they use Thermo-Acoustics for medical imaging. Let's just go to Wikipedia because it's quick and easy. And this is not something they would typically trip out on. This isn't good. Thermo-Acoustics is the interaction between temperature, density, and pressure variations of acoustic waves. Thermoacoustic heat engines can readily be driven, blah, 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 blah. Thermoacoustic systems. Let's see if there's something else. Let's try thermoacoustic medical imaging. Thermoacoustic imaging. This looks a little more familiar. Thermoacoustic imaging was originally proposed by Theodore Bowen, a strategy for studying the absorption properties of human tissues using virtually any kind of electromagnetic radiation. Any kind of electromagnetic radiation. Alexander Graham Bell first reported the physical principle upon which thermoacoustic imaging is based. A century earlier, he observed that audible sound could be created by illuminating an intermittent beam of sunlight on a rubber sheet. Well, that sounds fun. Let's look and see exactly how it happens. The process by which thermoacoustic waves are generated is depicted in Figure 3 and can be understood as a four-step process. Biologic tissue, including your brain, is irradiated by an energy source that is absorbed by the body. The source of the energy is nonspecific, but typically consists of visible light, near-infrared light, radio waves, or microwaves. Radio coming out of microwave towers. Right? The absorbed energy is converted into heat, which raises the temperature of the tissue, typically by less than 0.001 degrees Celsius. Now, this is well within the FCC regulations. The increase in the temperature of the tissue causes the tissue to expand in volume, however, very, very slightly. This mechanical expansion produces an acoustic wave. That's a pressure wave, a sound wave that propagates outward in all directions from the site of energy absorption at the velocity of sound in biologic tissue, approximately 1.5 millimeters per second. When the tissue is irradiated with a pulse, the acoustic frequencies that characterize the acoustic wave span the range from 0 to 1 over pulse width. Example, a 1 microsecond pulse produces acoustic frequencies from 0 to approximately 1 megahertz. A 1 millisecond or a 1 microsecond pulse produces acoustic frequencies from 0 up to 1 megahertz, while ultrasound starts at 20 kilohertz. 20 kilohertz, or point 0.2? No, 0.02 megahertz. I had to do the math on that. I hate metric conversions. They bug me. The bottom line is, all that said, the bottom line is that microwave energy, millimeter wave energy, infrared light can be pulsed into your body and can generate ultrasound frequencies. And what this lady, who's an MIT graduate, worked for Google, worked for Facebook, and is now developing telepathic communication systems in addition to cheap imaging systems, what she's saying is that light, infrared light, changes its wavelength. A Doppler shift, she said, occurs when that light passes through ultrasound. And what I'm telling you is that this stuff can be generated using electromagnetic antennas. Ultrasound can be generated in your body using electromagnetic antennas. And we have devices that emit lasers that then are read back with a camera that she said has pixel quality well enough to be able to understand very, very fine resolution. Lasers can go in, pass through tissue, into the brain, be reflected after they go through a Doppler shift where ultrasound is made. And if you have multiple antennas or multiple beams of energy, wireless energy, focusing and converging in your brain, you get these intersection points that they would be able to read that Doppler shift of light from potentially from your phone, bouncing off tissue in the brain that happens to have interfering ultrasonic waves that have been generated with microwaves outside the body, converting into sound waves as they pass through your body, having the light and the sound interact with each other, and then be able to read the change in the wavelength of light to be able to literally read your brain. And I'm submitting to you that that's possible today. And when we get to watching this lady, Regina Dugan, this is what she talks about. It's exactly what she talks about. And let's put her creepy little face back up. Look at this lady's eyeballs. Look at this lady. Do you think that is not a nice looking woman? I mean, she literally looks not very happy. Anyway, I'm digressing. Let's go back and see what else Miss Jepsen has to say, because she's pioneering this technique, this technology. And the reality is, I think it's already been done. I'm just saying.
So we use that and we decode that image, much like Rosalind Franklin decoded this iconic image of X-ray diffraction to reveal the structure of DNA for the first time. It took her a while. She didn't really get full credit, but we can now do that 1 million times a second in the chips that we've designed. So why this, why now? This is really possible now thanks to the tens of billions of dollars that have been invested for manufacturing process improvements in the silicon supply chain of the world, the $1 trillion consumer electronics supply chain, to enable basically next generation Pokemon Go. I'm not joking, I wish I was. But getting those pixel sizes down really fine and getting the sensors of the environment down are important, because that Pokemon figure has to be right on this desk, not in 1 inch below one, and when I touch it. And then also we want high fidelity screens in front of our eyes in VR. And so we've been able to use that to make these systems. So it really is classic innovator's dilemma. 2-ton magnets, there's no manufacturing process improvements on 2-ton magnets coming, but using the tools of our time, which includes the silicon factories of the world and the consumer electronics supply chain, I believe we can leapfrog where we are. So this was our system last year. Looks kind of big and bulky. It took up a whole room, but we used existing off-the-shelf components so we could finalize our architectures of our chips and so forth, and prove to ourselves we could get good images. And now, this is our system right now. And we've made new chips, a new camera chip, a new ultrasonic chip, a new kind of laser that pulses. And this is a 2 by 2 foot little rig. It's a smaller system. We'll reduce that again further to the size of that kind of a probe or even a mobile phone. But right now, this allows us to change the system and architect it in a way that we can get the best image quality. So with that, last year, these were the kinds of images that we could scan with phantom optically mimicking and ultrasonically mimicking tissue. We could find the tumor or the vasculature right there. And then we started to scan rats. We have a small animal imaging facility. No rats were harmed. And we started to scan rats, and we noticed the images were kind of noisy. So we took a step back and spent the last few months looking at the noise in our system. And we've been able to improve the signal-to-noise ratio by 8-fold, and the signal intensity, our laser wasn't always the same power going out, by 23-fold. And we're keeping going. Like, that's a huge amount of improvement in 2 months of looking at it. So what we're doing right now is taking homogeneous slabs of fat or muscle and scanning them, so a perfect image is absolutely nothing. So now, as we finish that, we're going to scan rats again, and we'll be publishing those images soon. But really, the major step for this, when you think about a drug and the risks for a drug, it's at stage 3. There's an Alzheimer's drug that failed last week. The big risk, the white-hot risk for us is right now, it's image quality, and that's where we're spending our time and effort. And it's basically the integration of these components with image quality, AI machine learning, our systems, and our subcomponents. But we'll have alpha kits this year. In fact, we kind of already do have an alpha kit. We're just not releasing it because we're, developing the image quality. So with that, we can combine the best of MRI, the best of infrared, and the best of ultrasonic imaging to allow us to see inside of our bodies and more. There's more capabilities that we can offer as well. But the implications of this are pretty profound. It's access to medical imaging for everybody. And then the decoding of the medical images using AI, machine learning, and the great radiologists that there are not enough of if you think of the 3/4 of humanity that doesn't have access to them. So this can go in an ambulance to detect, say, for example, what kind of stroke you had, which is a key thing. It's the leading cause of disability in the US, whether you have a clot-type stroke or a hemorrhagic-type stroke. There's a pill that you can take that can burst the clot, but if you get the pill wrong, the patient dies. And today that means access to a CT scanner within 3 hours of a stroke. Tomorrow it can be in every ambulance, doctor's office, pharmacy, and protect that. Also, when you're having surgery, did you get it all out? We can find out quickly. Or at home, if you have a tumor, is the therapy working? There's also a lot we can do for brain disease and brain-computer communication that I'll talk about. But when you think of this in a limit, You can do a scan for $1 instead of for $1 instead of $1,000. It really changes how much data you get. If you're not feeling well, you can scan yourself, and you really ultimately don't care about false positives. You just track it. Like when you're taking your temperature and you have a fever, if it gets over a certain state, go to the hospital. Otherwise, you basically care about the answer to, is it getting bigger? Is it getting smaller? Is it staying the same size? And if it's getting bigger, that tends to be the concern. If it's getting smaller, that's probably good. So with this, I think we'll have very quickly more medical imaging data than everybody else combined. And so we should be able to learn, as we work with all these groups, more about disease and their cures. I mentioned there's some more capabilities. We can also, since we're focusing the ultrasound for a microsecond, a little ping, if we focus it for 1,000,000 times longer, we can ablate tissue. We can do surgery without the knife, without an incision, without the risk of infection. We're collaborating with the Focused Ultrasound Foundation, who's been a real pioneer in this area. These are now FDA approved. We can also open the blood-brain barrier, do local delivery of drugs, and even do neuromodulation, like as is approved for Parkinson's disease and essential tremor with this system.
Are you picking up what she's laying down? This device that she's creating, that she wants to put in the hands of everybody, doesn't take much to make it a surgical tool or a neuromodulatory tool where it can stimulate or suppress brain activity. So this brain-computer interface, there's more to it than just being able to read the brain. There's also what you can put in. It's not what they can take out, but what they can put in. And it has everything to do with the amount of energy that's applied. And she's saying that her system here can scale very easily, and that she's working with groups that are familiar in those fields, focused ultrasound, for example, whereby they're looking at getting certified through the appropriate legal and or bureaucratic agencies for this cheap wearable device to be able to do things like cure or treat Parkinson's, and or do things like open the blood-brain barrier to deliver medicine, or to act as a surgical scalpel to ablate tissue, to open up tissue without using a knife, where they can focus the ultrasound. They send ultrasound in 2 or 3 different directions, and as that ultrasound kind of all converges together at a single point, it becomes focused and powerful enough where it starts shredding tissue, opening up cells. And that makes you wonder again, if we go back to microwaves and millimeter waves and multiple antennas and multiple beams all converging on a human, what is possible? What can they do? Can they melt your brain? Can they rewire your brain? Can they neuromodulate your brain? Up to you to believe or not believe, or read, or whatever you want to do. If you want to read, go to this website. Go to humaninternet.org, look under the wireless section, and look at brain communication remote control. Look at directed energy. Look at Wi-Fi and ultra-wideband, and then go look at Google's SOLI, Google's radar, and you will see just how far down the rabbit trail we are, and it's in a pocket near you. It's next to your balls or your breasts or next to your children.
And there's more than that. The most expensive healthcare system in the world is that for brain disease. And there's a biological basis. You usually answer some questions to see if you're clinically depressed. One of those questions is, do you have thoughts of suicide? And anyway, if you're clinically depressed, there's actually a pattern in your head. Right now, one of these scans, an fMRI, costs $20,000. But with the 1,200 samples that a group of hospitals put together last summer, they found that there were patterns for anhedonia kind of clinical depression as opposed to anxiety clinical depression in others. And then you could see if the pill that you were taking or the therapy you were taking was working or not. It's no longer subjective, but objective. So we could really change mental health care. And then there's communicating with thought alone. This is work by one of my favorite professors, Jack Allen at UC Berkeley, where he put graduate students in MRI machines for hundreds of hours, showing them YouTube videos while the computer made recordings of their brains reacting to the image sequences. Then he showed a new presented clip, and the computer inferred with the data it had what it thought the student was looking at, which is pretty grainy. I saw, this is about a decade old now. I saw this and I'm like, whoa, all we have to do is up the resolution and shrink down the size of the imager, and there you go. And if you combine with that the fact that when you imagine an image versus looking at an image, the same areas light up in your head. So a Japanese group has now done this with dreams. And so the bet is with massively more data, higher resolution, and we can actually focus down to a neuron, and combining with the work being done by the brain initiatives all over the world, getting some hierarchical data, we can get even further. Just to be clear, this is correlation. We're not understanding how the neurons are connecting. We're just looking at the use of oxygen. Just looking at oxygen use, you can do this. So essentially, what we're doing at Open Water, we think is inevitable. Using near-infrared light, the tools of our time, machine learning, AI, and advances in consumer electronics, it's going to happen. People are dying. Join us and come together to make it happen. Thank you.
She pulled a Greta Thunberg on us. People are dying. So we are going to watch more of this lady. We will watch another episode next week. And it is how we can use light to see deep inside our bodies and our brains. And this was back in 2018 at TED. And bear in mind, she's using existing off-the-shelf units that are assembled in something we understand as a cell phone. Camera chips, the infrared dot projectors, and ultrasonic speakers put into a nice, sleek form factor that can be used as like a wearable. So we are rapidly reaching the point where your phone stays in your pocket and everything is done with a wearable around your head, or perhaps even not. They used to have a very cool set of graphics. They've changed their website like 3 or 4 times over the last 2 years. And yeah, none of this is loading. This is their new site. Hey, here we go. These are all the people. And I guess you're going to have to, yeah. Biomedical engineer, electrical engineer, optical scientist, mechanical engineer, ultrasonic engineer. Very, very interesting. And a legal team. Oh, joy. Yeah, I wanted to show you more pictures about what it is that they are physically trying to make. She'll give you a prototype of it here. Maybe I'll see if I can find a sneak peek of it. So this is a while ago what she's showing here. We're going to watch this whole thing.
Third key to enable better, faster, and cheaper healthcare. So this is
Dang it. Let's go back just a touch.
cheaper healthcare.
Look at camera chips, liquid crystal displays, and lasers. Cell phone, cell phone, cell phone. Granted, these are larger objects. Camera chips, liquid crystal displays, and lasers.
So,
changing the way we read and write our bodies and brains. And what you see here are little combinatorial chips that are laced into something like an ace bandage or into a ski cap. And as they get smaller and smaller and more refined, they will become more and more integrated into these materials, and they will be more and more comfortable to be worn.
this is a mock-up of something that can replace the functionality of a multi-million-dollar MRI machine.
Multi-million-dollar MRI machine. We're going to go back and look a little closer at this stuff. Now, this is a mock-up. These are prototypes. The finished product will be smaller, sleeker, more comfortable to wear. But you can see this is something like an ace bandage that can be wrapped around the body and then be used to inject light and ultrasound into the body, and also have cameras there to receive the images. And if you don't think that's possible, I'll give you another example. And it's something like a watch. These things already exist. They're already in production. And here it is. An optical sensor, an electrical sensor, and it's all here in this watch. You have a light emitter and you have receivers that this stuff gets injected into your body, it reflects back, and it's able to understand things like the oxygen content in your blood, your pulse, your stress level. Here's the actual patent for it. This is a light field camera. Apple's wearable electronic device having a light field camera usable to perform bioauthentication from the dorsal side of the forearm near the wrist. And they have a bunch of cool pictures here, some of which are listed. We'll go through these one at a time. So a light projector, it's able to see what's coming back. Here's a diagram of it shining into your skin and then reflecting. It's going to reflect back, and it's able to image and understand your dermis, your skin, and what's going on at the different various layers of the skin. Keep in mind that that light can create pressure waves. If it's pulsed, it can create acoustic waves, which then interact with your biological tissue. But Apple loves you. They would never do that. They respect your privacy. They would never, never want to neuromodulate the three nerves that are running down to and through your wrist: median, the radial, and the ulnar running down your arm. They would never, never think about focusing light around those nerves and trying to interact with your nervous system to get to your brain. They would never want to do that now, would they? No. Nor would they want to use the antenna in here that's used to connect to Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or the cell network. This one says LTE on it, which means this has an LTE antenna in it, able to talk to a cell tower all by itself. That antenna is right next to you, your blood, your veins, your nerves. And this is a map of the venous system. It can map the tendons, the veins, the nerves. It understands it all. And this is that bioauthentication piece. This is the name of the patent. Having a light field camera usable to perform bioauthentication, it knows the specific orientation of your blood vessels, your nerves, your tendons, your bones, and the unique combinations of all of those things. It creates a bioauthentication, your biometrics. Each one of these in this chip, for example, are light field cameras that overlap. 1, 2, 3, 4 overlapping, creating the interfering holography that this lady was talking about for her brain-computer interface technology, and or to potentially be spun up and used as a stimulating modulatory device. And I'm showing you a patent from Apple that discusses having the very same hardware components in it to do exactly those things with whatever is going on underneath the skin at your wrist. Albeit the patent doesn't exactly say that now, does it? It's just to authenticate you for your safety and security and the comfort and usability of your your smartwatch. But this is going to save lives, because according to Mary Lou Jepsen, people are dying. People are dying. I should be across the ocean in school. This is where we are going. And when we watch Facebook's talk with Regina Dugan, you will see that this is exactly the kind of stuff that Facebook is into. And if they're into it, so is Apple, so is Google, so is Twitter. humaninternet.org. I hope you go and look at this. I have not worked on this, on building out more of the site in a while. I will as time permits, hopefully soon. But there is plenty here and lots of TV to watch. All of this is TV. All of it. So, Open Water. You want to go here and watch the rest of the videos that they've decided to put on their website, openwater.cc. Mary Lou Jepsen, MIT graduate, Facebook, Google. Now she has her own company, and we are off to the races with interacting with machines without using our thumbs. Will be directly out of the brain. Where are we at? We have 4 whole minutes left. What are we going to do with 4 minutes? Crystal, are you there?
No.
No.
No, I'm not.
This is a new This is a new picture, Crystal.
It is TMC.
I like it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I went back and forth. Which one to pick?
Right?
Yep.
Well, I think it's better than the last one.
Oh, why?
I don't know. It just is. This is it's the other one was like an acid trip or something. I don't know what you call that.
It pretty was. It was that. What was it? Thermo-ish.
So it was crystal in a heat map. Got it.
There you go. It's possible.
Crystal in a heat map.
It's popular. Oh God. So anyway, what's up? Great show.
Yeah, all 10 minutes. It was awesome.
No. We got 10 minutes. Actually,
we all got an hour.
5.5.
Yeah,
you know?
we each got an hour.
Yeah.
Actually, sleep and I got an hour, and then I got my own hour.
Oh my God. Yep, that's what happened. No, I'm just chat.
Oh, funny.
It's not fair. So anyway, what's up?
Donna, what do you want to do? We got 2 hours.
We do, don't we?
Yep.
So the time didn't change, right?
No.
It didn't go forward. Well, for you it did, I think, right? Or no, not really.
Well, as it relates to my activities on PSB, everything is an hour later for me.
I don't get it. Why can't everybody be on the same? Why can't everybody be on the same?
Because the Earth spins and the
Yeah,
sun
well, I know that, but
shines,
Listen.
and you know the thing.
you know the thing. Can you believe it? I saw a video where he was, I don't know where he was at, but he did that same thing that Hillary did. I've come too far.
Oh god.
On this mountain, I don't know what, I can't remember what it's. Oh my gosh,
Oh,
James
sleep.
Woods posted it.
Sleep, if you're still awake, man, you need to saddle on up.
You're right. Don't sing it. If you do, I swear, I'm out of here.
It's totally stuck in my head. I heard it earlier.
Telling.
I heard the country version earlier on through Pandora. It's not as good as the hip hop version.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
No, it's not.
Still
Please
good.
don't do it. No, just play.
I'm not gonna lie, it might slip out over the next 2 hours.
Well, especially, you know, once you finally found out what the lyrics were.
Right.
That we don't take the horse to the hotel room.
No. It's the Old Town Road. Thanks for the
Old Town
clarification
Road.
on that. Yeah.
You're welcome. Anytime, TNC, anytime. I got your back.
All right.
All right. Anyways, moving on. So yeah, what do we want? What do we want to do? Sleepwalker says that salty hour. That wasn't an hour, my friend. We got 5.5 minutes, and then it was an hour. I think it was like almost an hour that you guys were talking, right? Just about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it was a lot of fun. That was great conversation, and I kind of love the back and forth. You know, not kind of. I do actually. I love the different opinions too. It just reminds me that not everybody thinks the same, and that's a great thing.
It just reminds me that not everybody thinks the same thing, and it's a great thing.
There you go. Yep. That's what I said. Isn't that what I said? Sort of.
You didn't get that, did you?
No, I guess not. You know, you got to spell things out for me. Womp 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 womp.
Did you get it out? As in, like, was implying that or insinuating that I thought the same thing that you did.
Mm-hmm.
As the
I got it. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Well. Yeah. Not so funny.
Gotcha. Good.
Anymore.
There. Just kidding. I won't do it.
Kidding, not kidding.
Oh, you went and pulled out the pickles. That's TMC's favorite song.
I hate that song. I'll rephrase that. I effing hate that song.
Oh wow. Yeah. He had to add the F into it.
I really effing hate that song.
Oh my gosh, awkward mama. Oh my gosh. Okay, so yeah, let's see. Check this out. So look at this. This is Minnesota early vote by party. Check that out.
It's got a rash
already, right? It's got a rash. It does, but look at right here. I think this is where Minneapolis is.
You're sharing computer sound.
I am.
Computer sound.
Okay. Not anymore, though. It's gone. Is the echo gone?
Yeah.
How come it doesn't happen when you guys do it? It's only me.
Because.
Why is it only me?
It's you.
It's you. All right. Yeah, crazy, right? I mean, not crazy. I mean, I kind of expect. I think we're gonna see this all over the place. I'm just real excited for Tuesday. Can it be Tuesday already? Can it be Tuesday already?
Tuesday.
See, I know for some people it's gonna take like the actual results coming in for them to kind of get it, but because you know, there's still people that buy the lies, you know.
Tell me nothing.
Oh shit, he did.
Bye.
Oh my word.
Can't
There you go.
It's stuck in my head, man.
Dude, don't do it to me, please. Dude. Can I show Texas like that? I wish. This is just the only one that got posted. Powder Love said, how do y'all stand this D live? Actually, I kind of don't care for it as much as I mean, because I'm used to YouTube, but I'm not, I don't like care for it that much. Yeah, I don't care for it. All right. So anyway, yeah, we had a Trump tweet while you were doing the whole thing. Yeah, he said, I just learned that Sleepy Joe Biden is campaigning in Pennsylvania with Lady Gaga, a proud member of Artists Against Fracking. This is more proof that he would ban fracking and skyrocket your energy prices. As I said at the debate, will you remember that, Texas, Pennsylvania, Ohio, New Mexico? I will always protect American energy and American jobs. Get out and vote MAGA.